What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the new exotic rocket launcher in Destiny 2, the Wardcliff Coil, which some of you may know as the Dubious Volley. This weapon was actually discovered in Destiny 1's code, but was never added, and it found its way finally into Destiny 2. Now, when I see this weapon, or when I use this weapon, the number one thing I am asked, bar none, is the Wardcliff Coil anything like the Gjallarhorn? And I think that's a very fair comparison, because the Gjallarhorn in Destiny 1, well, firstly, it was a very powerful rocket launcher. Especially in Year 1, it was just the best weapon to use, period, when you wanted to, frankly, do anything. And then it did get nerfed and became a lot more reasonable, but was always quite good. And if you actually think back to the Gjallarhorn, the power didn't come from the actual rocket, but it came from the fact that several seeking projectiles came out of that rocket and hit all enemies nearby or that big boss you were shooting. The Wardcliff Coil shoots several semi-seeking projectiles. So you can see that there is, again, a very fair comparison. Is the Wardcliff Coil, if all those projectiles seek in the same spot, just like how the Gjallarhorn would have all those projectiles loop around and seek in the same spot, are they on a comparable power level? Well, we are going to talk about the Wardcliff Coil and how it functions and what it's like in PvE, and actually I've been using this a lot in PvP as well. So get ready. Now, firstly, what is the deal with the Wardcliff Coil? What are its unique perks? Well, the first one is the intrinsic exotic perk Mad Scientist. This weapon fires a volley of rockets, and this is the thing that makes the Wardcliff Coil different from every other rocket launcher. No other rocket launcher is firing anything similar to the Wardcliff Coil, and you can see in the background gameplay, it can be quite effective. Not a single rocket, but rather a bunch of mini rockets. Much easier to hit your target when the entire ground in front of you is exploding. There's also another unique perk with the Wardcliff Coil, and that is Mechanized Autoloader. This weapon automatically reloads on ammo pickup, and that is actually quite useful. You do have to have the Wardcliff Coil out and equipped when doing this, so you can't be using your primary weapon and then run over power ammo and have it equipped. No, that won't work. You have to have the Wardcliff Coil out and then run over the power ammo, and again, it will automatically reload, which is actually still, with that kind of downside, incredibly useful, because the amount of time it takes to actually reload an entire rocket into the Wardcliff Coil is a while. So the fact that you can shoot an enemy and then just go and get that power ammo, and how Destiny 2 works right now, where any higher level enemy is going to automatically drop power ammo, that works out perfectly. You can melt a power enemy with this rocket launcher, and then that enemy is going to drop power ammo. You just run over it, pick it up instantly, and then shoot the next guy, run over there, pick up his power ammo. You can just go off and get several enemies in a row just doing this without ever having to reload. And this weapon can be just fantastic for taking out groups of enemies. The projectiles seem to have semi-seeking properties. It's a little weird. Sometimes when you shoot it up in the air, you will actually see the mini rockets curve towards enemies and hit them. However, other times they seem to head in the opposite direction of enemies. It is definitely a little bit strange. Like, sometimes you feel like this has a bunch of seeking properties, and sometimes it just screws you over. There does seem to be a degree of randomness to where the projectiles seek, but if you're close enough, they'll always hit. And once you do get used to this weapon, it is so fantastic at clearing out multiple enemies at the same time. It again covers way more ground than a normal rocket launcher. Even a rocket launcher with cluster bomb just isn't going to lay the same amount of waste as a Wardcliff Coil shot. So if you see a bunch of enemies in front of you, you know with one shot they're all going to die, or leave some very, very weakened few enemies. And in that aspect, it is somewhat similar to the Gjallarhorn. The Gjallarhorn had some of the same properties. You'd shoot in a group of enemies, and then you'd watch those seeking projectiles just murk so many more that other rocket launchers may not be able to get. But here is the main thing. The Gjallarhorn was absolutely fantastic at boss DPS. Is the Wardcliff Coil? Well, that's actually a more complicated question than it may appear on the surface. And that's because, again, that inherent randomization really comes up. I've had times where the Wardcliff Coil, like one shot, did phenomenal damage. Like, I'm talking killed to almost kill an entire high value target with one shot. Like, it does more damage than a normal rocket launcher. Much more damage. But, and there's a big but, sometimes those rounds just miss. I never thought I'd say this. I truly never thought I'd say this, but this rocket launcher has a lot of recoil. It really does. When you shoot the Wardcliff Coil, especially when you're aiming down sights, it just starts going up. It really goes up as it's firing its volley. And so if you are any sort of reasonable distance away from that enemy, it's going to start missing rockets, and then its DPS is going to fall down. Whereas the Gjallarhorn, its rockets, its projectiles, they didn't miss. First of all, the beginning rocket was seeking, for goodness sakes, and then of course the Wolfpack rounds had insane seeking properties that would always curve around and hit that boss. The Wardcliff Coil is nothing as close to as good as the Gjallarhorn in that respect. It can get that insane boss DPS. It absolutely can. It has the potential, but it's very, very inconsistent. That is the main factor there. And this kind of leads to a problem, which is because of the inconsistency, you just want to get as close as possible to the enemy you're shooting so that all those projectiles hit and you can get that massive damage. But the closer you get, the closer you are to killing yourself. Because, quite frankly, if one rocket hits the ground near you, it will kill you. Like, it instantly kills you. So if one rocket goes astray, you are dead. Which, embarrassingly, happens quite a bit if you're playing that super close game, if you're trying to get right in a boss's face to get all rockets to land. So that is the Wardcliff Coil in PvE. It's very, very fun to use, and if you guys get one, I would highly recommend trying it out, even just running a strike with it, because it will put a smile on your face. It has a huge amount of potential to just lay waste to a massive group of enemies or to a single boss and do a ton of damage. But it is very, very inconsistent. Like, sometimes the rockets just curve away from enemies, it's very hard to hit every single rocket, and therefore it just doesn't have, I think, a legitimate comparison to the power level of the Gjallarhorn. I think it's fair to compare these two because they do have some similar aspects, and this rocket launcher being an exotic rocket launcher that can out DPS your normal rocket launcher, again, that's a legitimate comparison to the Gjallarhorn. But does it hold a candle to the Gjallarhorn in PvE? No. Just no. Frankly, nothing will. Bungie, I think, views the Gjallarhorn as somewhat of a mistake because it was such a good choice in so many scenarios, especially in year one. But how is the Wardcliff Coil in PvP? Because I actually took it there, and here's the thing, guys. I have never not gotten a kill when I've shot the Wardcliff Coil, I'm pretty sure. I'm at like 100% shoots to kill ratio with the Wardcliff Coil. This thing is insane in PvP. Just insane. Every time you shoot it, everything on your screen dies. Because only one rocket, it seems like, only one rocket close to an enemy will be enough to kill that enemy if it's a Guardian. And so when you're shooting a wall of rockets that all have the potential for one-hit kills, you just murk whoever is in front of you. It is so fun to use. And dare I say, but I think this weapon is legitimately good in PvP. Like, legit an option if you want to win the game, not just for fun. Because it is so good at just getting those kills and also getting double kills, triple kills. If you're doing an objective game, and God forbid there's enemies on the B flag, and you have a Wardcliff Coil, there will be no more enemies on or anywhere around the B flag very, very soon. Yes, you don't have the potential. You don't have the potential to go on those massive streaks like you do if you get, sniper ammo or fusion rifle ammo, but you do have the potential to guarantee yourself like a double or triple kill, and like God forbid the enemy unfortunately pops a super, oh, they're dead. There's no way. Any super in the game, if you shoot the Wardcliff Coil in that direction, they are murked. There's no way they're surviving it. So if you absolutely live for stomping lobbies, yeah, maybe a sniper or a fusion would be better because you can go on those streaks. But if you want an answer button, a button where you press and it answers everything in front of your screen, the Wardcliff Coil, legit, try it out in PvP. It is so much fun and again, quite effective. Well guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this look at a very interesting new exotic in Destiny 2. If you enjoyed this video, found it informative, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you actually want to be notified of new uploads, be sure to press the bell beside subscribe. Now, if you guys want to support the channel and myself, check out the official merch linked in the description down below. Speaking of the description down below, if you guys want to keep up to date with the latest channel activity and dank memes, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.